Welcome back to my channel. At the family gathering, I stood near the doorway with a small gift bag in my hand, my fingers tightening around the handles, as if they might anchor me. The house was loud in the way family homes usually are, clinking glasses, overlapping conversations, laughter that bounced off the walls, but none of it seemed meant for me. I paused, waiting for someone to notice, to call my name the way they used to when they were children, running toward me with scraped knees and wide smiles. No one did. For a moment, I wondered if I had come on the wrong day, to the wrong place, even though I recognized every face in the room. I forced a smile and took a few steps inside. The familiar smell of food, recipes I had once taught them, filled the air. My oldest was laughing with an aunt, head thrown back, carefree. My youngest leaned against the counter, scrolling on their phone, barely glancing up. The middle one passed right by me, so close our shoulders almost touched, yet their eyes slid over me as if I were a stranger. Not Mom. Not even a greeting. Just absence. The kind that hurts more than words. I told myself not to overthink it. They were busy. They were grown. Life moves fast. Still, my heart began to beat a little too loudly, and I felt suddenly out of place in a room I once ruled with warmth and purpose. I set the gift bag down on a side table, carefully straightening the tissue paper, as if perfection might earn me a moment of attention. Inside were small things, nothing expensive, just thoughtful, chosen with care. Things only a mother would remember they liked. I tried to join a conversation near the couch, nodding along, waiting for an opening. When I spoke, my voice sounded smaller than I expected. The words hung in the air for a second, then dissolved as the conversation continued without me. Someone laughed at a joke I hadn't heard. Someone else poured another drink. I stood there, invisible, my smile slowly hardening into something that hurt to hold. Memories began to surface without my permission. Birthday parties I planned down to the last detail. Late nights waiting for them to come home safely. The sacrifices I never announced because love didn't need an audience. I remembered holding their hands on the first day of school, promising silently that I would always be there. And now I was, standing right in front of them, yet somehow completely erased. As the minutes passed, the ache grew heavier. I watched my children interact with everyone else effortlessly, laughing, teasing, being fully present. With me, there was distance. Politeness at best. Discomfort at worst. It was as if my presence reminded them of something they wanted to forget. I wondered when that shift had happened. Was it something I said years ago? A mistake I didn't realize cut this deep? Or was I simply no longer useful in the lives they had built? I picked up my purse and moved toward the kitchen, pretending to look for something to do. Busy hands, I told myself. Busy hands mean no one asks why your eyes look glassy. I wiped the counter that didn't need wiping, listening to snippets of conversation behind me. Plans were being made, trips, dinners, inside jokes, and I wasn't included in any of them. Not even as an afterthought. Someone finally noticed me, but not in the way I had hoped. "Oh, you're here," one of my children said, surprised, almost inconvenienced. No hug. No warmth. Just a statement of fact. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, and replied softly, "Yes." That single word carried everything I couldn't say, years of love, confusion, and quiet longing. In that moment, standing in a kitchen full of people who shared my blood, but not my heart, I understood something deeply painful. I wasn't just feeling ignored. I was being rejected. Not loudly. Not cruelly. But clearly. And as the noise of the gathering continued around me, I felt an unexpected stillness settle inside. The kind that comes right before something changes forever. I stayed, even though every instinct told me to leave. A part of me still believed that if I waited long enough, one of them would turn, smile, and say my name the way they used to. So I sat on the edge of a chair near the wall, hands folded in my lap, watching my children from a distance that felt far greater than the few steps between us. Time moved strangely then, too slow in my chest, too fast everywhere else. Plates were refilled, jokes grew louder, and stories were told about moments I had never been invited to witness. I studied their faces, searching for traces of the children I raised. They were there, in the curve of a smile, in the way one of them frowned while listening, but those familiar details only made the distance sharper. I remembered the years when they needed me for everything. When my approval mattered. When my presence meant safety. Somewhere along the way, I had become optional. Worse than optional. Uncomfortable. Eventually, one of them approached me. My heart lifted for half a second, foolish and hopeful. They didn't sit beside me. They stood, arms crossed, eyes darting around the room, as if afraid someone might notice us talking. Their voice was low, controlled. They told me I made things awkward. That my way of speaking embarrassed them. That people asked questions about me, questions they didn't want to answer. Each word landed carefully, like it had been rehearsed, like this conversation had been waiting for the right moment to happen. I listened without interrupting. I didn't defend myself, even when the accusations felt unfair, even when they ignored years of context and sacrifice. I watched their mouth move and realized they weren't talking to me anymore. They were talking at a version of me they had already decided to dislike. I wanted to say that I had tried my best. That I had made mistakes, yes, but never without love. That everything I did was for them. But I could tell none of that would matter. They didn't want understanding. They wanted distance justified. When they walked away, relief flickered across their face. Relief. That hurt more than the words themselves. I sat there, unmoving, replaying the conversation again and again in my mind. I saw how easily they had spoken, how light they seemed afterward. And slowly, painfully, I understood that this wasn't new for them. This rejection had been growing quietly for years, nurtured by unspoken resentment and unreturned calls, by holidays where I felt like an obligation instead of family. The room felt tighter after that. The laughter sounded sharper, almost cruel. I noticed how my children leaned away when I came near, how conversations stopped when I approached and restarted when I left. No one was openly unkind, but kindness wasn't there either. I had become a reminder of something they wanted behind them, of roots, of responsibility, of a past that didn't fit the image they were trying to build. I thought about all the times I had blamed myself in private. Maybe if I had been softer. Maybe if I had been stronger. Maybe if I had asked for less, or given even more. Sitting there, surrounded by family yet completely alone, I realized how exhausted I was from carrying that weight. From always trying to earn a place I once held naturally. At some point, I caught my reflection in the dark screen of a television. I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. Her shoulders were tense, her eyes tired, her smile long gone. But there was something else there too, A quiet awareness forming, slow but steady. I saw someone who had loved deeply and paid for it by disappearing. Someone who had been shrinking to fit into spaces that no longer welcomed her. That was when the truth settled fully in my heart. I wasn't being misunderstood. I was being dismissed. And the hardest part was accepting that it wasn't my job to fix it anymore. I had spent so many years showing up,